I love Superman Smashes the Klan, and I hate the Klan. Uh, I hope that's not controversial. So I don't read a lot of comic books, okay? I've probably read like a single digits number of comic books in my life, but I love superhero media and I like Superman. You know, I watched Superman and Lois all the way through, amazing show. I watched My Adventures with Superman, great show. I watched Superman Returns, pretty mid movie, but hey, I like Brandon Routh.
Aww.
Um, and this, well, I was about to say comic. It's more of a graphic novel because it has all three chapters. Um, this was recommended by a YouTuber, Troy Oboyo. It was highly recommended as a good book to read if you're a Superman fan. And after reading it through, I think that's a great recommendation. I think um, it's just a really excellent story. And I don't want to get into spoilers just yet. Right now, my job is just to convince you that this is peak. So, Superman Smashes the Klan takes place in the 1940s. It's a very classic Superman feel here. You know, you have him with the black emblem there, and you have Lois and Jimmy working at the Daily Planet. It's a very classic feel to it. And the basic premise of the story is that a family called the Lees, who are Asian American immigrants, they move into a new part of Metropolis. They move out of Chinatown, and the Klan does not like that. It's like a copyright free version of the Ku Klux Klan. I think it's like the I forget what they called it in here, but it's the Ku Klux Klan. And basic premise, Superman needs to stop the Klan from like terrorizing this family and from like destroying property in Metropolis and being an all around terrible group of people, right? You buy a book called Superman Smashes the Klan. You want to see him punch some Nazis. And you do. Like page 1, you see him punch a Nazi. So I got what I paid for, right? Um, I really really love this book. I think that hold on, I can find a good page for it maybe. Look at that. Look at that. He's punching a Nazi right there. Tell me that isn't an incredibly charming art style. Apparently, the team that works on the Avatar: The Last Airbender comics did the art for this book, and it comes across. It's such a charming art style. The characters design for Clark and for all the characters, including the Lee's daughter, Lan Shin, uh, just really, really great. And the story is really fantastic as well. I think that it's a very nice parallel that's drawn between Lan Shin and Clark. Clark goes through a very personal journey in this book. You know, it's not all just about like the external story of smashing the Klan. There's like a personal story here too. And I think that this is peak Superman. I think anybody who critiques Superman on the basis that he's too powerful, he just can beat anybody, you know, there's no threat because he's just such a powerful character. I think you need to read this book because I think it will help you understand that that's not the fucking point. It doesn't matter how strong he is because he's a very interesting character. He's inherently interesting and there are many, many stories to tell with him in it as a lead, regardless of his strength. Because it's the Ku Klux Klan, right? Like these are just regular Joe Schmoes. Like they don't have superpowers. So it's not like will Clark be able to defeat them, punch them? Like no. I mean he does punch them, but like you're not questioning whether or not he can do that. You're invested in his personal arc and you're invested in him saving people and you're invested in him getting through it and becoming a better person at the end of the story. And yeah, this is just a perfect book for any naysayers of Superman because it's a one off. You don't need to do any homework. There's no greater comic universe that you need to read up on before this or after this. It's just a one-off story. And I think that if you don't know if you like Superman, just pick this up and read it. It's a one and done that leaves you wanting more. I read this book and I wanted there to be more homework for me to do. I wanted to continue reading about this Clark because I really like this Clark. Like they give him a good origin story here. He already starts off as Superman, but without getting into spoilers too much, you see some flashbacks and you see his thought process and you see him grow more into the Superman that we know. And it's just really great. It's a classic feel, like I said before. Lois and Jimmy are here. They're not like main characters, but they are prominent, and just seeing their classic routine with Clark, seeing their relationships, um, it's really great. It's like a nostalgic feel. I don't even have a lot of nostalgia for this like era of Superman. Like I said, I haven't read many comics. I haven't read any of the comics from the 40s. I haven't even watched like the 1970s Christopher Reeves movies, which I'm sure I should do at some point. I'm sure I will do at some point. Strangely enough, I think that the best part of this book is when it ends and it becomes something else entirely. There's like a short, I don't know if excerpt is the right word, but there's a short story, I guess, called Superman and Me. And it's written by the author of this book. And it delves into American history with the civil rights movement and with immigration and with the Ku Klux Klan. And it delves into Superman's history and creation. Uh, the the creators of Superman were the children of Jewish immigrants, and you can see that reflected in this story. That is actually based off of an old radio show, like in the 1940s. Um, there was the Superman radio show, and it was very popular. I think also in the 1930s, a little. And it was listened by millions, and there was a 16-part story arc where Superman fights the copyright-free version of the Ku Klux Klan because the author explains the history of it and how there was a resurgence in membership in the Ku Klux Klan and how this story was made as a response to it and how Superman is created to be a champion of the oppressed. Like he earns that title. He represents truth, justice, and the American, no, not the American way. Fuck the American way. He represents truth, justice, and a better tomorrow. That's what he represents. And it's just a really, really interesting read. I learned a lot more about the Klan from this than I ever knew before. I didn't realize there were uh, like different like phases or like different resurgences in popularity. And I think that reading this after reading Superman Smashes the Klan contextualizes the story in a way that makes me appreciate it even more because I see the parallels drawn and I see the real life historical influence and I see the importance of this story. And on a more personal note, the author also talks about his personal experiences with racism and bigotry and being part of an immigrant family. And he also talks about his personal experience with Superman. It's called Superman and Me. And I want to read a quote from this because I really like the quote. I can't remember when I first discovered Superman. Was it the classic 1978 movie starring Christopher Reeve? Or the old Super Friends cartoon? Or the Superman puzzle book I bought at a school book fair in the first grade? I don't know for sure. He seems to have always been there. Holy peak, okay? When I first read that, I did start tearing up a bit. I don't think I realized just how much Superman means to me and just how much I love Superman. I already knew I loved Superman, but the idea that he's always been there. I'm about to tear up right now. Holy moly. I also don't remember the first time I learned about Superman. He's just always been there, and he always will be there. And I think that that presence, you feel him, right? And I think that we all need Superman. And I think you need to read this fucking book because you will fall in love with Superman the same way that I have. Okay? I it's you don't have to do homework. It's a standalone and it'll make you want more. And I think that's perfect, right? I think historically this is a very smart book, and I think that personally it will speak to whoever reads it, or at least I hope so. So that's my recommendation. I want to get a little bit into spoilers now, so if you're planning on reading it, I don't mind. You can not finish this video. Um, Delving a little bit into spoilers, I think that I want to talk about how smart this book is at handling the commentary, right? Because it's called Superman Smashes the Klan, right? You know he's gonna fight racism or whatever. He's gonna fight the Ku Klux Klan. And so I was expecting that to be overt, like racism bad, you know? And like, yeah, I agree. But I was kind of expecting it maybe to lib out a little. Like, I didn't think it would go further than that. I didn't think it would be as smart as it actually ended up being. And for example, right? For most of the story, like the main antagonist is like this middle management member of the Klan, right? He leads like a sect of it in Metropolis. And we see him, he's a major bigot and he's racist and he's fueled by his hate for immigrants and the Lee family, and he's hunting them and he is doing all of these terrible things, right? And he eventually goes to like higher management. Like he goes to like the top guy in the Klan to ask for help. And he's confronted with the fact that at this point in time, the Klan is a money-making scheme. The higher up guy is like, what are you doing wasting all our money trying to fight the Lees and trying to get Superman's attention? Like, I'm trying to make money here from people's like admission into the Klan. And I didn't know that before reading Superman in me, that like in like the second phase of the Klan's resurgence, that it was very, very money driven, and it was a bit of a scheme. Um, and I think that's important to point out, that um, the like top of the top will prey on people's hate in order to make a profit. And I wasn't expecting Superman's story to like go there, right? Um, I think it doesn't go like too far into it, maybe, but it acknowledges it, that people profit off of racism and people profit off of bigotry. I just thought that it was interesting they touched on that a little bit. And the least surprising part in the book is that you see a cop in the background and he has a smug look on his face, and you're like, he's part of the Klan. And then it's like, yeah, he's part of the Klan. Who would have thought the cop is part of the Klan? What? Um, and that was that was interesting to see, kind of, because there's like a good cop character in this book, because it's superhero media, and superhero media has a really weird relationship with cops. Um, that's a whole topic in and of itself. But there's like a good cop here, and then there's a Klan member cop here. So this is not like an all cops are bastards book, as much as I would like it to be. Um, so it does live a little here and there, but regardless, I think it does go into more stuff that than you would expect. Like the main middle management clan member is like kind of grooming his son to also be hateful, and the book doesn't straight up portray that kid as evil. They like portray him as like misguided and that he isn't doing these things because he hates the Lees. He's doing these things because he doesn't want to believe that his family's evil. And I think that was an interesting line that the kid said. He's like, I just want to believe that my uncle's not this racist bigot. Um, but at the end of the day, the kid chooses to be good and to go against his uncle. Not because Superman threatened to beat him up or whatever. Kids, don't be racist or else Superman will beat you up. No, kids don't be racist because the right thing to do is to not be racist and to go against, to be anti-racist, right? Um, so I think maybe any kids reading this should be able to take something away from that, right? Um, and this one's not even too touched on in the book. It's just visually told. There's a point where the kids go to a movie, and the main villain is a very obvious racist Asian caricature. And I don't think any of the characters acknowledge it. But if you're reading the book, you should probably catch it, and you should be like, oh, like all these kids who are being nice to the Lee kids still exist in a racist society, and they still have racist beliefs, even if they don't realize it. Um, and it was the 1940s, right? So, yeah, I think the book goes a lot deeper than just the Klan is evil. Like, yeah, the Klan is evil, but also um, there's a whole like American society that's also racist here, right? Even if even if you're not part of the Klan. Um, Overall, I think the commentary is very good. uh, there is a good cop character, be warned. But hey, I think overall this is a very smart book, especially with Superman and Me at the end as an excerpt. Um, just a really great addition, right? Moving on from the politic of it all, Clark's story in this book is fantastic, and it has really great parallels between him and Lan Shin, both as immigrants, right? Like at the beginning of the book, Clark gets sick, and then we get introduced to Lan Shin, and she's sick, right? It's like immediately we're supposed to draw parallels between these two characters, and at the end of the book, she's talking to Clark as Superman, and she points out that he is holding back because he wants to fit in. Throughout this whole book, Clark is just using super strength and super speed, basically. He's not using flight or heat vision. And like that's how Superman originally was, right? He didn't have flight or heat vision at the start. He was just a strong man, like historically. But eventually he was given those powers over time. And so like in universe in this book, that's kind of explained as Clark purposefully not using those powers because he didn't want to seem too weird to the public, right? And Lanshin is doing a very similar thing. She goes by an American name, Roberta, throughout the book, but at the end of it, she starts going by Lanshin, and it's like she's not holding back that part of her identity anymore in an attempt to fit in. She's being authentic and she's being herself, and society just has to deal with that, right? Um, like whatever people think be damned. And I think their personal story here makes me like Clark so much more. And it makes me want more from Lan Shin. Like she had a really cool friendship with Jimmy. She became like Lois's like trainee. Like Lois is a mentor figure to her. I'm like, does she show up in other comics? Like because from what I read in Superman and Me, on the history of the radio show that this was adapted from, she wasn't even a named character. It was her brother Tommy who was uh, the main guy in the story. Um, so this book kind of expands on her character quite a bit. I wonder if she shows up anywhere else as well, because this came out in 2019. So it's been a few years, right? That's plenty of time for someone to pick up her character as well. I think that Clark learning more about his alien heritage throughout this book is like one of the main reasons why I want more out of this universe, because it's like this was an origin story, right? And I think like I said, the meta reason for that is to like show that transition of like how Superman originally was to being an alien with like heat vision and flight, as opposed to just like a strongman that he originally was, right? But like I saw that and now I want more out of this Clark, because you see his relationship with his parents and I think it's very interesting. And you see him he discovers the Fortress of Solitude in this book, and it's under a lake in fucking Smallville, and it's the coolest thing ever, and it's just like, is that really the only time I'm going to see that? Like, I don't know. I want more. I want more. I think this was a really good story, heartfelt, pretty smart, great art, and um, good world building. Like, I want more. I don't think I have anything else to say beyond that. You need to read Superman Smashes the Klan. I don't know how to end videos, so bye.